In Raven's Fair, silence is not peace, it's protection. Imagine a town so forgotten. Time itself seems to have stopped. The paint peels from every building. The swings in the playground hang motionless. Any thick, heavy quiet blankets everything, especially after the sun goes down. At the heart of this decaying town stands a grand, abandoned theater. Its red velvet curtains are torn, its marquee long since faded, but its presence is a constant, dark reminder of a story the locals will never tell. They have a rule here, a warning passed down through generations, etched into the very soul of the town. Beware the stare of Mary Shaw. She had no children, only dolls, and with that comes a more urgent command: don't scream, don't whisper her name, and whatever you do, never stare at the dolls for too long, for in Raven's Fair, the silence is a shield against a horror that never truly left. It's a place where the puppets never seem to rot, and the darkest secrets never die. The name Mary Shaw is spoken only in hushed, fearful tones, a ghost story that feels all too real. Mary Shaw was a ventriloquist, the town's star performer decades ago. Her skills were mesmerizing, almost unnatural. Her collection of handcrafted dolls, each with its own unnervingly human expression, drew crowds to the old theater every night. But then, a young boy vanished after heckling her during a show. Accusations flew. The town turned on her, and in a fit of vigilante justice, they silenced her forever. Her dying wish, they say, was to have her body transformed into a ventriloquist's dummy, to be buried with her children, her collection of 101 dolls. But vengeance doesn't stay buried. The legend claims she returns from the grave, seeking revenge on the families who wronged her, taking their voices before taking their lives. The only way to survive is to not scream. Now, imagine a visitor arriving in Raven's Fair, a skeptic drawn by the folklore, someone who sees the town's eerie quiet not as a warning, but as a challenge. He rents a room in the old inn, the only place that still has its doors unlocked, though the owner simply points to a key and retreats without a word. The visitor spends his day exploring, camera in hand, documenting the decay. He notices the windows of the houses are filled with dusty, old-fashioned dolls. They sit on sills, propped up in chairs, their glass eyes seeming to follow his every move. He laughs it off as a strange local custom. As evening falls, the silence deepens. It's no longer peaceful, it's suffocating. The locals lock their doors, draw their curtains, and not a single light pierces the gloom. The visitor, undeterred, decides to investigate the source of the legend, the abandoned theater. He finds the doors unlocked, groaning open into a cavern of dust and shadows. Inside, the air is cold, smelling of decay and old perfume. He walks down the aisle, his footsteps echoing unnaturally in the vast space. On the stage, under the faint moonlight filtering through a grimy skylight, he sees them, rows upon rows of puppets, sitting on shelves. Puppets on shelves where painted smiles, slicing through the dark. He decides to provoke the legend. Standing in the center of the silent auditorium, he takes a deep breath and calls out her name, his voice a defiant crack in the stillness. Mary Shaw. Nothing happens. He laughs, a hollow sound that dies quickly. He calls out again, louder this time. Mary Shaw, is that all you've got? The silence that answers is different now. It feels heavier, watchful. He turns to leave, but a faint sound stops him, a creak. From the stage, he looks back. One of the dolls, a clown with a rictus grin, has its head tilted at a new angle. He blinks, convinced it's a trick of the light. But then another doll, a porcelain girl in a tattered dress, seems to have shifted its gaze directly toward him. An old, dusty audio recorder on a nearby table suddenly clicks on. A woman's voice, calm and gentle, fills the air. It's a recording of a performance, the lilting tones of a ventriloquist weaving a story. But the voice is wrong. It's too smooth, too perfect, lacking the warmth of a human voice. As the recording plays, a faint scratching sound begins from behind the main stage curtain. It's a rhythmic, scraping noise, like fingernails on wood. The visitor's bravado evaporates, replaced by a cold, creeping dread. He backs away slowly, his heart hammering against his ribs. The scratching stops, the recording cuts out, the silence rushes back and, more absolute than before, he sees something new, carved into the dusty floorboards near his feet. A single sentence, "Be quiet." A child's laughter, thin and ghostly, echoes from the empty balcony above. He spins around, but there's nothing there, just shadows and decay. He realizes then that the town hasn't been quiet by choice, it's been quiet out of terror. This silence isn't a tradition, it's a prison. He tries to scream, to call for help, but the sound catches in his throat. His own voice has abandoned him. Suddenly, A single spotlight flickers to life, illuminating the center of the stage. On a lone stool sits a single puppet he hadn't noticed before. It's a ventriloquist's dummy, dressed in a sharp black suit, with piercing blue eyes and a carved, knowing smile. It's Billy, Mary Shaw's most famous creation. The dummy's head slowly turns to face him. Then, a voice speaks, not from the dummy, but from the deep darkness behind the curtain. A woman's voice, raspy and ancient. "I told you not to scream." Slow, deliberate footsteps scrape across the stage from behind the curtain. It's not the sound of shoes, but of something wooden, something being dragged. The visitor is frozen, paralyzed by a fear so profound it feels like ice in his veins. The shape that emerges from the shadows is not quite human. It's tall, gaunt, its movements jerky and unnatural, like a marionette whose strings have been cut. It's the form of Mary Shaw, her face a mask of pale fury, her mouth hanging open in a silent, eternal scream. Her eyes lock onto his. He finally finds his voice, but all that comes out is a strangled gasp as the figure lunges forward. The next morning, the sun rises over Raven's Fair. The sheriff, making his rounds from the next county over, finds the doors to the old theater wide open, creaking in the breeze. He calls out, but there's no answer. Inside, everything is just as it was, dusty, silent, and abandoned. There are no footprints, no signs of a struggle. Nothing is out of place, except for one thing. On the stage, among the 101 dolls, there is a new one. It sits on a stool, dressed in the visitor's clothes. Its face is pale, its eyes are wide with terror, and its mouth is carved into a permanent, silent smile. And if you were to look closely, you'd find a tiny, hand-stitched label on the inside of its collar. It reads, "Made by Mary." If this legend sent chills down your spine, like, share, and follow Hollow Voice for more whispered horrors from the shadows. Stay curious, but more importantly, stay quiet. Thanks for watching.